So welcome to stage video 21. Now I did want to do this as a double episode because I did the pilot as a 2 episode, but I'll be honest with you, I haven't got the space, so this one is going to be a single episode. So we are going to paint the Navigator, and what a wonderful figure this is. So just in case you weren't aware, I did buy the Tory figures, Tory factory. This is the Lancaster bomber team. Now I believe one of these are going to become obsolete. I can't remember. So this is, to put it in layman's terms, this is the guy that's going to sit at the table. He's got his little pencil. He's sitting there working all the calculations out, plotting all the points and everything, etc, etc. So when we come to clean this guy up, don't do as I almost did and cut that bit there off, because that is a pencil. And I think, just for a bit of fun, I'm going to do one of those old-fashioned pencils. Do you remember the ones? They were yellow and they had that little was it red top or black top? I can't remember, but we'll have a look. And it's probably going to be the wrong color because it's probably some kind of military pencil, so it's probably in army green or something. But let's have a bit of fun with it. So the first thing I noticed with all of these figures is you've got these, I'm sorry about the focus, I've got it really close in, but you've got these little nubs. All I'm going to do is I'm going to trim that nub down as much as I can, and then I'm going to use my display sander. This is 1000 grit, and I've got the pointy end, and all I'm going to do is just gently go over it just to make it smooth. Be careful guys, these are resin figures, so really you should be wearing a respirator, but I'm being a bit naughty, and that's what you're going to end up with. So nice and smooth. Yes, it's discoloured, but you won't notice that as long as it's smooth. Okay guys, so I'm going to get on with that. Okay, so the next bit, I managed to hit the record wrong. So what I've done is, obviously I don't want to handle this while I'm painting it. So I'm going to do the same thing I did with the pilot figure, which is find a place that won't be visible, which in this case is going to be his bum, because he's going to be sitting down. We're going to drill a 1.5mm hole through the end. I'm going to get a cocktail stick, just cut the end off, just that little tiny tab. And then we can just push that in, and then that will fit in there with a friction fit, and that gives us something to hold. And then when we've finished him, we can take him out. Done. Job done. So over to the spray booth. So usual stuff, nothing you haven't seen before for zenithal highlights. We are going to do the whole lot in black primer. In this particular case, I'm using AK Interactive primer. Once that's done, we hit that with a grey primer from a 45-degree angle, and then we hit him with a white primer from above. Like I say, all the primer I've used today is AK Interactive. So there he is, looking lovely. So I'm going to try out a new paint system. We have got the Fanatic paint system. They do these interesting triads. So I'm going to be using a combination of barbarian flesh, ruby skin and opal skin. These come from the very light yellowish pink. No, they don't. They come from the rose skin tones. So each colour is progressively lighter than the other. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to block in all of the flesh using the barbarian flesh, which is the darkest of the three. So next up, using AK11113 chocolate, I'm going to block in all of the leather jacket. So next up, I've diluted a strong skin shade down 50-50 with water and applied it all over the skin. But equally, you could do the same with a dark brown oil wash. So next up I've used AK11188 Oxford Blue, and I've used that to block in all of the trousers. So next up I've used the War Paint Dark Tone, which is basically a black. So if you don't have the war paint, you can just use a black oil wash. And I've gone through all of the jacket. And for the trousers, I've used a blue tone, war paint blue tone, but again you could use a blue oil wash and just go through all of the trousers. Now when you're doing the washes, do take care, do soak up any excess pooling, so that it's got a nice, it's nice and even in the crevices. So I've gone back to my triad of barbarian flesh, ruby skin and opal skin, and using really thin paints. I've just gone over, first of all I've gone over the barbarian flesh again, but just leaving the recesses, and then just blend the three colours together to get a transition that you like. Keep it extra thin, and just add on the either a mix of barbarian flesh and ruby skin, or ruby skin on its own. Keep it really thin and just pick out those highlights, and then finishing up with the opal skin. And what we're doing is we're just going to dot the extreme highlights on. Okay, so we're going to do exactly the same for the jacket, but we're going to use the AK11113 chocolate, and I'm going to blend that in with a lighter brown. In this particular case I've used Humbrol number 94. It's just something, the first thing I found that's a lighter brown, and we're going to be sort of gently blending those two colours together, doing exactly the same thing. Start off with the chocolate brown, reinforce that jacket in everywhere bar the recesses, and then just start building those highlights with really thin paint, before eventually just dotting on the extreme highlights just with a pure Humbrol. So having done a really nice jacket and some really good skin, I begin to cock it up a bit now. So I'm using AK11188 Oxford Blue again, and I'm just blocking in those highlights. I'm leaving the recesses, and then I'm going to begin to start blending in AK11845 RAF Azure Blue. It's a blue that's lighter than the Oxford, and again building those highlights up before finally finishing with the pure RAF Azure Blue for dotting on extreme highlights. And like I say, I wasn't happy with this. Later on in the video I go over the whole lot with a blue tone, to try and dumb it down a bit. I thought the highlights were a bit too much. Okay, time to block in the life jacket, and for this we're using AK11044 yellow. Now yellow is quite a weak colour, so you're probably going to need 2, maybe 3 coats. So using AK11124 middle stone, we are going to block in all the bits and bobs. I don't know what they are, but there's like all this pack stuff that is it webbing, and it all sits on top of the life jacket. So we go over all of that with a war paint light tone from Army Painter. Alternatively, you can use sort of a sepia, dark sepia oil wash. Either will do. So next up, I've gone over his shoes and his gas mask and his goggles using AK11028 Smoke Black. I used Smoke Black because I was going to put a wash over the top. I actually changed my mind, so maybe I should have used a black. So on the webby thingamy bobby whatever bit that sits on top of the life jacket, I've taken my middle stone AK11124, and then I've added in AK11031 buff, and we are going to build up the highlights just like we did on all the other colours, working our way from the middle stone, and then we're going to hit the extreme highlights with buff. Keep your extreme highlights to a minimum, make them really more, might invent a word here, more impactful. So next up is to add the highlights to the yellow. So we're starting off with the yellow AK11044, just to get those, just go over the life jacket again everywhere bar the recesses. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a little touch of white, just to bring the detail up. I'm just going to work it up until we've got a very light yellow for the extreme highlights. Just keep going until you're happy with the result. Always bear in mind that it does dry slightly darker. So for the collar, I wanted it, I want to represent the fur collar, even though this hasn't actually got a fur collar. So I've had to sort of force my own detail. So what I've done is I've got the middle stone and I've added a little touch of white, and I've stippled on. I got an old Airfix starter set brush, and I cut the bristles down to about 4mm, made sure it's nice and straight, and then I stippled on just a few dots, and then I added a little touch more white, and then I did it again and a little bit more. I did this about 4 times, with each stippling being slightly lighter than before, just to try and give some kind of impression of some texture. It wasn't the best result in the world, but it kind of helped. Okay, so we can just add some highlight onto the gas mask now, not the shoes, just the gas mask. And what we're going to do is we're going to get a dark grey. To be honest with you, I just used a grey primer. It just seemed good enough for me. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to touch the tops of all of those wrinkles in the air hose, and then we'll draw a little line down the middle of the gas mask and just hit any highlights just to give it a little bit of shape. So next up, I get some gloss varnish. I love a shiny shoe, especially on military personnel. I hate to see military people with dull shoes, so I've just gone over the shoes to make them look nice and shiny. And then what I've done is I put a nice big blob inside the goggles just to make them look like glass. So here is the finished model. Now the one bit that I didn't hit the record button properly is a little ruler. I did that in azure blue, kind of a clear plastic. And then what I've done is I've done his pencil yellow. It had snapped off, but there was still enough to play with. I was going to stick something in, but I've just painted it yellow and then put a red blob on the top. Just reminded me of those old school supplied pencils you used to get when you were in primary school. As you can see, shadows come in to have a look as well. But yeah, overall I'm pleased with it. Okay, so that's it for this week. We will be taking a break now for Christmas, but I will see you in the new year, and I will leave you with a shot of the 2 members of crew that I've got so far. So let's, as always, go over to the costings. So for issue 21, the Hachette one is £10.99. That brings a total cost up to £217.79. So the Navigator hasn't cost us anything. We've already brunted the cost when we first bought the kit, bought the pilot figures. So that then remains at £739.39 for the Hong Kong version. So that makes a difference now of £522.17. Please forgive me for the background noise. I've actually got my headphones wrapped around my my chair seat. So we're on £522.17 difference. That's with all the aftermarket kit. If you just bought the basic model, you're so far only £160.13 out of pocket. So you want to know which one is best, don't you? So for the issue 21 Hachette, I am going to give that no less than a 2. I did enjoy that stage. I didn't build it myself, but it looked really nice, intricate parts. Some people may disagree with me. I do like the little parts that are quite fiddly. As for the Navigator, well, I really loved it. I love to get in there and painting figures. So again, I'm sorry, I can't give that any less than a 2. So that makes the running score 32-32, and the scores are even. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This I really did enjoy making. I made painting, it was enjoyable, and actually editing the video was fantastic. Guys, so that's it for this year. We will return on the 10th of January for issue 22. So I hope you will join me then. Take care, guys. Bye bye.